Hello and welcome to We Random episode 75. We are recording on April 26th, 2022. This is the Random-ish podcast where we talk about random stuff. B is going to tell you a little bit more about that, but before we do that, I want to start us off on the right foot. And B, I was out walking around the other day. I know that's kind of hard to believe because I don't go anywhere, but I was. And I ran into a clown who actually held the door open for me. And I thought it was a nice gesture. A nice gesture. Yes, sir. We'll be back right after this.
Almost Qualified Productions. Your dose of semi-coherent babbling.
Welcome to We Random, episode 75. I'm Landmark, out there in the world of Skonzii. Say hello to these wonderful people, Skonzii.
Hello, wonderful people, and even those who aren't so wonderful.
So, as this light that you see on my face, don't be concerned. That's just the light that I'm seeing after Skonzii's joke. I'm going to try not to go into the light, though. I'm going to try to avoid it, but... You know, as you can tell, it's that wonderful time of year that I get light that's reflecting off of my neighbor's window for like all of 15 minutes. And of course it happens during peak podcast time. So we'll just have to deal with that as it just transitions across the room. But how are you doing, Skonzii? What's been going on? What's the good word? What do you got to tell our wonderful patrons and loyal listeners and loyal viewers here today?
You know, things are good. We took a week off of stream and a week off podcast because you had some stuff going, and it was a nice change. And I think I'm going to do that a little bit more often here and there because, you know what? God damn it, I deserve it. So that's what I got.
That's true. So before we do what we do, which is just jump into our wonderful Wheel of Doom, where we have that wheel spin and we talk about topics and we get mad online, I'm going to hit y'all with our positive point. Because if you look at our wheel today, there ain't nothing positive on there, not a damn thing.
By the way, I had wrote a note that I was going to find like some kind of a magical sound bit so that when we do the positive point, I can play the magical sound. But I forgot to do that. So I'm just going to pretend and go positive point. Okay, go B.
So that's going to be the positive point sound from now on?
Maybe I might pull it now and use that.
So the positive point is for Lenny. So on TikTok, It's Lenny is a friendly animated blob with a kind and friendly voice to bring you content to help you with everyday life. Lenny the Blob is always validating the audience and has a way of gently reaching out while being effective and affirming. So Lenny is a TikTok account that Skonzii turned me on to, and it's typically these very short, like 45-second-ish videos of like affirmations or like just reminding you that like life is hard and you don't have to be so hard on yourself. And it typically always ends with like, I love you so much, and just like very affirming and like makes you feel good. So if you're feeling down or if you need some affirmation, go find Lenny on TikTok, because that's like one of the few like nice pure accounts on TikTok and not something where you're going to see all of the things that we have on our wheel today.
Yeah, I mean, I figure, you know, I show you 10 or 12 horrible TikToks and then I send you a Lenny to cleanse your palate. But Lenny's pretty legit. You know, we really focus a lot on trying to be positive and positive mental health and taking care of yourselves on this podcast. And Lenny does a lot of that too. So
Sure
definitely
does.
A good place to stop by.
All right, so that's the positive portion of the program. If you want continued positivity, we will see you next week. But if you would like to see us get mad online, Skonzii, will you spin that wheel and we will get it rolling?
It's a spinning. This we're gonna talk about Dwayne Haskins. We're gonna start off on a very interesting, sad note.
All right. So we talked about Dwayne Haskins a couple of weeks ago, the individual who was killed when he was hit by a dump truck. Additional information was released in terms of the 911 calls from Dwayne Haskins' wife and a witness of the scene of the accident. The 911 calls revealed that Haskins was walking on the highway to get gas shortly before his death. A Florida Highway Patrol spokesman confirmed that Haskins was walking on the limited access facility at 6:37 a.m. and attempted to cross the westbound lanes when he was struck by the truck. Now, we thought that this was interesting as a follow-up because there was a lot of kind of media like, why is he out there? Why is he walking down the freeway? He's such an idiot. He should have stayed in college. Like all of that, right? But now it comes out he, like probably dozens and hundreds and thousands of you, at some point ran out of gas, right? It happens. Like, I know several people in my life who have at some point been stranded because they ran out of gas. Now, there might be somebody out there who's like, I'm not, but like, that's not the point. The point is, he was on the freeway walking to get some fucking gas, and people are like gaslighting this dude because of everything else that he did in his life.
Yeah, I shared this one with you and put it on the run sheet because I read this and I was just instantly so sad. Like it's not that I wasn't sad before, right? Like this was, what is he, 24 years old, 24-year-old kid who's dead. Like that's tragic and sad all in itself. But when I read this, because I think everybody had the same kind of question, like why is he walking along the highway? What's going on? What's the situation? Not that makes it okay, but I think everybody kind of had that question. And then you hear, dude ran out of gas on the goddamn highway, and he's trying to walk to find gas. Like, could have called AAA, could have called, hell, he probably could have called the team and they would have sent somebody out there to get him gas. He's just trying to get some gas because he's stuck on the highway. It's just so unbearably sad. It just tore my heart out of my freaking chest.
Yeah, this is just a reminder to have empathy for people because you never know what the situation is, what's going on, and to try to put your best foot forward instead of putting your foot in your mouth. Hello, Adam Schefter. Hello, Gil Brandt, I think it was, or whatever other like 97-year-old white dude that was.
An idiot. Yeah, an idiot. All right, let's spin the wheel because that still makes me incredibly freaking sad. And instead, let's talk about teachers in Texas.
All right, so we are going to talk about teachers in Texas.
This is the start of the angry portion of the podcast for those who aren't aware. Be prepared.
I feel like we need a drop for anger.
We probably do.
As teachers attempt to restore learning lost by students during the COVID pandemic, the Texas legislature has insisted that those who teach kindergarten through third grade need to jump through another hoop. They need to complete a 60 to 120-hour course on reading known as Reading Academies if they want to keep their jobs in 2023. The course must be completed off of the clock, unpaid. So this happened in 2019 when the Texas legislature wanted to improve student reading scores, and they came up with this requirement that everybody has to complete this course and blah, 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 and they gave people until the end of the 2022-2023 school year to do it. With COVID, kind of got lost in the shuffle for a lot of people, and now the state is like, nope, you still need to do it. And at this point, it's really impacting a lot of the teachers, and they're like, I'm not going to do it. Like, this is crap. So I thought that this would be an interesting conversation piece because for me, in some ways, like I can see both sides of this. So we always talk about like having people get paid what they're worth and not having them do free labor and stuff like that. So on that hand, I can definitely see that. On the other hand, if this is something that happened in 2019 and they gave people like 4 years to do it, this isn't something that just like popped up yesterday where they're like, you got 6 months to do this.
Yeah.
You didn't have 4 years to do it. So like I can kind of see both sides in this one where if this is something that would have come out like in 2022 and they'd have been like, you have 1 school year to do it. Like still like, sure, they give them a bunch of time, but that's still kind of crappy. But like 2020, 2021, 20, you had like 3 years to work on this. Not to say that you should have to be forced to do something unpaid outside of work, which is something that teachers do incredible hours of already. But I don't know. Skonzii, get mad. What do you got for me?
So this isn't the story I thought it was, but I'm still angered by this one a little bit. So the simple fact of the matter is, are you going to pay me if I'm not working? Like if I just decide I'm going to not work for a week, are you still going to pay me? No, you're not going to pay me because I need to work. That's why I get paid. Well, guess what? When it's my goddamn time off, you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to work. Because if I'm going to work, you're going to pay my ass. That's just how that works. You know, like come on now. I understand your point of, they've had 4 years to do it. And I think there's some validity to that. However, I would also argue that 2 of those years at least, like, don't really count. Like the whole world was upside down. It still is in a lot of ways. And it's as far as I know, I didn't see it in the article. I just kind of skimmed through it, but I didn't see in the article this is like an absolute dead set mandate that it has to be done. Like, just push the date back a year for fuck's sake. Like, somebody has the power to do that. Like, use your goddamn head. Now, this is Texas. Not a lot of people that use their head there, but just use your head and say, you know what? There's been some crazy circumstances. Let's push it back, give you an extra year or 2 to do your thing. Like, it's not that goddamn hard, right? On top of that, this is already a profession that has had like shit sandwich after shit sandwich shoved down their damn throats. They're already all over the country. People we're losing teachers left and right. And people are finding that it's not worth their time. They're getting attacked by parents. They have to deal with students that are doing whatever stupid stuff's going on. School shootings, we're not even going to talk about. You got all these mask mandates and people, bitching at the school. Like all this stuff that teachers have to deal with. They're already at a point where they're like, I'm done. I'm done. And now you're going to push this on them as well. Now, maybe the people who are going to uphold that line and say, hey, I've had enough and I'm moving on, maybe those are people that they want out. That's my conspiracy theory portion of this. Maybe they want to push those individuals out. I don't know. But I just, there's a saying that a guy that I used to work with, I worked in a position where our job was to really kind of help really crazy, stupid situations that came up. And I was brand new to the role and I'm kind of freaking out. And he said, look, this is a grumpy old man guy. He says, if nobody's bleeding, then it's not a problem. We can fix it. Nobody's bleeding here. Like, if they push this off a year, the damn state isn't going to implode. Like, come on, people. Just use your head. I know that's hard for the Texans. But just use your head, man.
Right. I mean, and in some ways, like this, considering what has happened over the past 4 years, is this really going to help anyway, considering how we probably have widened the achievement gap and all of these things based on how things have gone with COVID, right? Like, that's another consideration that they may want to think about. So this is just, it's sad because, like you said, we're going to lose quality people who really want to be in the field, and then it's going to end up being those people who are, like you said, it could be a conspiracy where, all right, now we got our people in and we're just going to push our curriculum too.
Well, and I mean, I draw a pretty strong, bold line when it comes to work time and personal time. And I feel very, very strongly that we all should be doing that. Like, are there times that I work 60 hours a week? Sure. Are there times that maybe I cut out, at 37 and a half hours a week? Maybe I do. Like, there's a little bit of a give and take there. And we know that teachers do that, right? Teachers are there early to get prepped for the day. They stay there late to do their gradings and set up their lessons plans and all of that. All of this stuff kind of plays into it. Why force this onto them as well? Right?
Right.
Like, it just, I don't know. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me for little to no benefit. And to Wiggum's point, is this them needing a certificate to keep their job? They have a whole list of exemptions, like a whole bunch of people that don't need to take it for whatever reason because they decided that they don't need that certificate. So they're being very specific as to the individuals that they're saying have to take this. And I don't know that it makes a lot of sense personally. That's just me. What
Yeah,
do
I
I
mean,
know?
Wisconsin did the same thing, like a similar situation. Wisconsin's like, oh, we got to make all these teachers do this reading test and this and that and the other, and like that was part of. I don't even know that I want to go there because then our podcast is going to get canceled. But if you look up politics in Wisconsin in 2010, you will easily find it.
I'm spinning the wheel. I'm surprised we haven't gotten canceled yet. We might actually hit episode 100 before we get canceled. That's insane.
Don't put that evil on me.
Speaking of Wisconsin, let's talk about the map of Wisconsin. I don't know why we talking about a map, B.
Well, we have to talk about maps because maps are used in voting. So, after the U.S. Supreme Court threw out maps drawn by Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers, the Wisconsin Supreme Court chose political maps proposed by Republicans in the legislature, entrenching the state's extreme partisan gerrymandering for another decade. No matter what the courts do with the maps moving forward, the maps will be in place for this upcoming fall midterm elections. Now, what one Marquette Law School individual says is that no matter what happens, it doesn't seem like the new maps are going to make it so that the Republicans would have sole majority of the seats, because what the Republicans did with the maps is instead of prioritizing it to get into a veto state where they could veto the governor, they focused instead on making sure that vulnerable Republican seats were kind of buoyed by the new maps. So, gerrymandering. But
Yep.
this was just interesting because and obviously not a lawyer, but in legal precedent, it was surprising to people that the United States Supreme Court weighed in and said, nope, we're not going to let the state adopt these maps. They got to try again. So then the Wisconsin, Supreme Court came in and said, well, here we go. We're just going to take these maps from the Republicans instead because gerrymandering.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting part is there is a conservative justice on the Wisconsin State Supreme Court who initially sided with the original maps and then said, you know what? Yeah, they're probably right. Let's just swing it the other way. For those who aren't familiar with gerrymandering, I don't have an actual definition, so, crucify me if I'm way off. But essentially, every time the census comes out, states redraw their districts based on population. I don't know what they use to generate that. I'm guessing they want similar size districts, is my guess, but they redraw those districts. And when you've got a certain party that's in power at the state legislature level, they try to draw it as much as they can in their favor. Especially the right does a really good job of this. And Wisconsin state legislature has been very strongly to the right for quite a while. And so they've gerrymandered the state to a point where they're just going to continue to stay in power. One of the big things that drove a lot of the conversation here is that specifically the black population in the Milwaukee area grew, so they had to do some redistricting. And of course, the Republicans are going to freak out because traditionally the black vote goes towards the left and not the right. And that's just one more representative potentially that could be coming in from the left, which hurts their possibility of control in the state legislature. So gerrymandering is fucking evil because it really should just be this many people voted for this guy, so that's who should be in there, or this woman, that's who should be in there. But they draw up these really crazy, stupid districts because, the people on the left side of the street will vote Republican, but the people on the left side of the street are going to vote for the Democrats. So let's just draw the line up the street and only circle the people that it's freaking ridiculous. And the fact that this is a thing is astounding. None of this really surprises me too much, right? The Republicans have a stranglehold in the legislature. I did find it a little bit, positive that they don't feel that they can get this super majority, which would allow them to be able to override the veto, which would be kind of nice. So at least there's a little bit of balance there. But yeah, the gerrymandering is one of the, I can't really say the few things that really gets under my skin because a lot of stuff gets under my skin, but this is one that really, really bothers me.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and it it's one of these things where as we get into the summer and early fall months, we'll be talking about this more because while neither of us are political experts, we are both two people who want to throw our voice into the wind because if we don't, then no one else will.
Yeah, and I'm looking at a map here, and I don't know how accurate this is. Actually, this is a couple of years old too, but it's funny because when you look at the most gerrymandered states, they're surprisingly very heavy in the southern right-wing states. I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know if there's a correlation there, but it's just a very, very interesting coincidence. Is that it? Are we good? Let's get out of here. I'm done talking about these assholes. Because you know they fucking suck. Anyway, speaking of that, textbooks in Florida. So I feel the heat of the podcast is slowly ramping up. Teachers, Wisconsin map. Now we're in Florida.
All right. Well, we are visiting 2024 presidential candidate Ron DeSantis. And in his state of Florida, after Florida's Department of Education vetoed more than 50 mathematics textbooks, about 40% of those submitted, for failing to meet Florida's new learning standards because they, quote, contained prohibited topics, schools are forced to reevaluate which math instructional materials they can use. Schools now have just one approved publisher, Accelerate Learning. Accelerate Learning is a company based out of Texas. This company was previously owned by now current Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin. So basically, now, like, I sent this to you and I was like, grifter's gonna grift. Because I mean, so there was a article that you sent me from a website, and I don't know how accurate or valid all of that stuff is, so I don't want to make judgments. Again, not a lawyer, not a whatever. But basically, this one website went through and said, okay, so I want to look at all of these books that they vetoed. And they looked at them, and they're like, the only things that we could find were a couple of references to empathy and like thinking about others, and then there was like one book that like used the word like racism in like a math problem.
Yeah, it's like they didn't release a lot of the information for obvious reasons, right? Because the reasons for them deciding to ban these books is minimal at best. I mean, it's just stupid. But yeah, I love the fact that not only are we saying we're going to ban books because we don't like that, you know, you say that 2 + 2 is 4, but we're going to find these random reasons that we want to ban these books. We're not going to tell you what the reasons are. We're just going to give you a general description of what we're banning books for, and then we're going to ban them, but we're not going to tell you specifically why we're banning these books. And then, oddly, in the really weird way, like this is what blows my mind. The odds of this happening completely coincidentally, because there's no way there is any malice on this whatsoever. It just so happens that every textbook manufacturer, except for the one buddy of his, they all got banned. That's so strange. Like, what are the odds? It's magical. I mean, clearly I'm being facetious because it's bad enough that they're banning things for really stupid fucking reasons, but then you can obviously see the business reason that goes in behind it as well. Like, this whole thing is just fucking asinine in so many different ways. And it's going to be a continued message on a couple of different things that we may talk about today, which is just people trying to control the narrative. That's what we see time and time again going on in this country, is people are trying to control the narrative. And some of them, you know, are trying to make believe that they're pushing for free press or they're pushing for free expression of ideas, but none of that is true. All it is people putting the clamps on ideas that they don't like, and that's a big fucking problem.
Yep. No, I mean that's the hard part about this, right? Is it's like we can see it, but it's working. Like, people are buying into this, people are like eating it up, and even like when you see the examples, because they did like put out a couple of examples, but you look at them and you're like, there's not like everything is still like under the whole like that's critical race theory, but like people don't understand what critical race theory is. Like that has nothing. So the article that you had sent me even broke it down. They're like, that's not critical race theory. That's this other thing that nobody has talked about.
Yeah, I don't remember what the term of it was, but basically it's some sort of teaching that ties into empathy and understanding, and trying to peacefully coexist kind of thing. And this falls into the things that they're banning books for. It's just asinine. Like, we want people at each other's throats, which of course they do. That goes into a completely different conspiracy theory that I have. But yeah, it's just a bunch of garbage.
Yeah, it was social emotional learning is what
There
it
we
was
go.
called.
Thank you.
So apparently, social emotional learning is now critical race theory because it teaches children to like think of others and to encourage their classmates.
Yeah,
And
no, that's fucking garbage. We need to hate everybody who's not a white man. That's just how it is. I'm sorry, B. That's just how it is. That's the world today, and we all need to get behind it because reasons, I guess. I don't know.
says the white man of the podcast.
Exactly. So I think the final word for this subject belongs to Ellie, who said the new book was a clear winner. On page 3, 1 + 2 = Jesus. And I think that sums it up pretty well. I'm spinning the wheel. All right. Let's talk about somebody who's not very good at using his words. Mr. Mike Tyson. I got his picture on my closet for those who aren't aware. I do have a Mike Tyson closet. That's a different story for a different time. B, why are we talking about Iron Mike?
We're talking about Mike Tyson because the same thing happened to your closet happened to a man's face. So, Mike Tyson is back in the news again, this time for punching someone on an airplane. Tyson was flying out of San Francisco and got onto a plane. Witnesses on the plane say that Tyson took a selfie with 2 passengers and was patient with one of the passengers who was sitting behind Tyson and kept trying to talk to him. Eventually, Tyson had enough of the guy behind him talking in his ear and told him to chill. When the guy did not, that's when the witness says Tyson started to throw punches at the man's face. Police said that the man was treated for minor injuries and provided minimal details about the incident and refused to cooperate with the police investigation. So there was a video that came out about this, and it was like a weird choppy video, so it really didn't show a whole lot.
It's kind of garbage video, yeah.
Like this guy was like recording his friend, like sitting behind Mike Tyson and like talking to Mike Tyson. And like you could tell even in this like 40-second video that this dude is just like annoying him because he kept like poking him and talking to him and like saying stuff. And like, you know, Mike Tyson's up here in like the VIP, like he don't need no other dude behind him like trying to talk to him. And we don't know what was said, and obviously the guy's not going to tell us what was said. But eventually Mike Tyson just decided to punch this dude in the face. So like, I kind of sent you, again, I can kind of see both sides of this, right? So Mike Tyson was being cool. He's just trying to do his thing. Now, should we condone ever that the solution is to just like punch somebody in the face? Probably not. Did this dude deserve to get punched in the face? Maybe, right? Like, we don't know. So this is a difficult one for me to really weigh in on without having more evidence. So if this were the Reddit "Am I an asshole?", I think we need more evidence here, but I would generally side that, you know, Mike Tyson probably is not the asshole. What do you got?
I'm going not the asshole. So here's the thing. If I, like, there's a lot of people in this world, right? And there's a lot of people that will whoop my ass or shoot me or stab me or something, right? Like, there's a lot of people that would do bad stuff. But if I had decided one day that I was going to get drunk and be an asshole and pester the hell out of somebody just for fun, you know who's probably number 1 on that list?
Christian Yelich.
It's probably Mike Tyson, right? Because even though the guy's like 70 years old, and even though the guy has really turned a leaf, and he's really kind of finding his spiritual, you know, happiness place, and he really seems to be coming around as a person, it's still Mike frickin' Tyson, right? Like, this is still a guy that could kill you. Like, I agree. Well, like we've talked about this before. Do you push something to violence? No, that's not the right answer, right? Like, as a people, we need to not go there. I do think circumstantially, it's very interesting that all the stories seem to indicate that this guy was very drunk and he was pestering him continuously. But the fact that this guy wouldn't help with investigators at all, like, again, this is Mike Tyson. Like, if you really wanted to try to make a deal out of this, like, this is a guy who's probably worth a little bit of money. I know that he blew a bunch of it when he was younger, but probably worth a little bit of money. At minimum, you would be able to get a whole bunch of press for this, right? You get TikTok famous or something. Like, you would think that you would cooperate in some way, shape, or form. So the fact that he didn't cooperate in any way kind of makes me think that he's the asshole, and he knows he's the asshole, and he decided to just kind of step away from it and say, yeah, let's just move on. So I think that the actual am I the asshole response to this is probably, as much as I'm rooting for Mike and I love the fact that he punched this fucker in his face, everybody sucks here. You shouldn't escalate to violence.
There is that.
And that dude was obviously being an asshole. So
yeah,
that's where I'm at.
That's fair. Well, and so the funny part about this is apparently there was like a Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff song about like Mike Tyson whooping somebody.
That's such a great, it's a great song. I think I can beat Mike Tyson. Will Smith's like, I'm gonna fight Mike Tyson. And it's a great song. Okay, it's not a great song, but it's a fun song. You should check it out. I will let you know that it didn't turn out well for Will Smith, even though, you know, he probably wrote the song and he was the star of it. But anyway, Ellie wants to know if this is a sequel to the Will Smith slap. Wiggum says no, because Will Smith was the asshole. Clearly at 100%. Tyson, you know, he could have handled it better, but
yeah,
it happens. All right, we're spinning the wheel.
All right.
Also, Emily wanted to know if we can do the Mike Tyson closet story for extra time this weekend. I think we can commit to that.
Okay.
And old man Wiggum put a link in the chat for how you can join the Patreon if you too would like to watch or listen to the Extra Time podcast. But before we do any of that, let's chill and talk about Netflix.
All right. So apparently now that we're all out in the world not wearing masks, Netflix stock is dropping. So after a massive surge of growth during pandemic-related lockdowns, Netflix is being forced to acknowledge that it's running out of room to grow and needs to move to password-sharing crackdowns to keep the numbers going up. So Netflix reported that subscriptions were down 200,000 in total from the last quarter. That does come with context because technically Netflix lost a whopping 700,000 subscriptions due to suspending its service in Russia, but they did gain 500,000 subscribers elsewhere during the period, bringing it to just 200,000 down. So based on all of this information, Netflix shares plummeted to the lowest point since 2018. The stock dropped 35.1%, and they lost about $54 billion overnight.
That's more than a Twitter. They lost more than a Twitter overnight.
It did. So, it was the biggest one-day drop in their history. So I think, to me, this kind of makes sense. Now, I'm not the person to ask, as you know, because we just talked before the podcast about me not being able to see things. So I'm not somebody who, binge watches much of anything these days. But there are so many services, right? Everybody's got a service. You've got Apple and Hulu and Discovery and Disney and XYZ.
Yep.
I'm surprised that Ron DeSantis doesn't have his own streaming service where you can watch the old episodes of, I don't even remember what Disney show got taken off the air,
Willie
right?
Or something. Yeah.
So there's so many streaming services and people are like, I'm not paying for all of this.
Right.
So makes sense to me. What do you got?
Yeah, Netflix has a lot of things kind of working against it. So obviously the pandemic, everybody was buying into this stuff because people were spending a lot more time at home. They're really diving into this password sharing thing. I think that they're very erroneous in thinking that if we shut down, 1 million password sharing accounts, that 1 million people are going to resubscribe, because it's not going to happen, right? People are sharing their passwords for a reason. I share passwords with people, and I have people sharing their passwords with me, and if I were to lose access to that stuff, you know what I would do? Nothing. Because I don't need it. It's not something I need in my life. Is it nice to have? Sure, but it's not necessarily a need. And I think that's what they're going to find. I think that they're going to shut this stuff down. They'll get an incremental increase of people subscribing, but it's not going to be anywhere near the number that they think it is. On top of that, they just continue to jack up their prices. I mean, a lot of these services are still under $10, like $8 or something that you can get, you know, Hulu or Disney Plus or something like that. And Netflix is now up to what, $15 or something? Like, they just keep jacking that price up. And frankly, they keep putting out a bunch of stuff that people don't really care all that much about. I mean, you see a lot of different series and shows that they build out and then they cancel them like right away, like after a season or two. And then people are like, well, why am I paying for Netflix if you're canceling the stuff I want to see? And instead you're shoving this garbage I don't want to see down my throat, right? Like, so they're just, I think they're missing the bus in a lot of ways. I don't suspect that their downslide is over yet. And I'll see what happens. And they're looking at adding a commercial service. My guess is they probably want to add like a free or a discounted service, so that what will happen is when they cut these people off from their $15 service or whatever it is, because they're cutting off their password sharing, that they can then say, but by the way, you can just pay $4.99 a month with commercials and you can subscribe again. Because as far as their shareholders are concerned, for the most part, they're going to look at that aggregate, right? They're going to say, oh, we gained 100,000 subscribers. Great, but they're not paying you $20 a month. They're paying you $5 a month. So I don't know.
Well, and so that's an interesting angle, though, because then you get the advertisers, and you know who's paying money to them to be on this thing? Advertisers.
Right.
So that's their way of subsidizing that money. So, I mean, it's an interesting business idea, right?
Yeah, and Ellie, I think that's a great point that, you know, at some point we're just going to be back to where we are, where it's just more expensive. Back where we started with cable, only more expensive and more convoluted. I mean, it's true. Like,
It's where we are now.
Cable is insanely priced. And so we all asked for this, though, right? Like, we asked to have individual apps and services for our stuff. The problem is the way that it's all put together and the cost of it. It's by the time you subscribe to 3 or 4 of these things, you're pretty much at where you were at before. So, like, everybody has to make their own choice. I get that. I don't know. Netflix is, I don't even know what to say. I don't know that the way they're going about this is the right way. But who the hell am I? I'm just a guy with a podcast that 4 people watch. You got any other thoughts, B, or are we spinning the wheel?
We are continuing to spin the wheel.
All right. I do like Emily's point that their number is going to go up for 30 days, and then they're going to drop, and then they'll go up again when somebody signs up for a new 30-day trial. Then it'll drop again in a month. All right. We're going back to talk about our friend, Ron DeSantis, and his fight with the mouse.
All right. Well, Florida's Republican-led state legislature passed a bill sought by Governor DeSantis to cancel Walt Disney World's special tax district in Florida. The Disney law will dissolve the entertainment giant's Reedy Creek Improvement District, which was created in 1967 after Walt Disney bought 40 square miles of land in Central Florida to build Disney World Land, whichever one it is. So basically, this is now going to make the local governments near Disney have to decide how to manage and pay for the property's public services, such as road maintenance and sewage treatment. So before, Disney kind of was able to figure all that out and kind of have their own, like, we just got to deal with it. But because Disney spoke out against some of the stuff that was going on in Florida, Florida is now being retributional to them. Whether anyone will admit that or not, who knows? I think there were some people who already came out and said basically that
That's exactly
we're
it.
doing this because you spoke out against us. But in some ways, it's kind of like they're almost, I don't know, like it'll work out, but now they're putting this financial commitment on these towns and cities to like figure out roads and sewage and all of this. And then I'm sure Disney will have to pay the local community back, but it just, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about this one.
This
So do you
is
want to get mad?
well, yeah, because here's the thing. It's similar to what we talked about with people controlling the narrative, right? This is just another situation where, you know, the reason this whole thing came about is because Florida had the goddamn audacity to open their frickin' mouth and say something about this completely discriminatory bill that they decided to pass, right? So these leaders in Florida are pushing their goddamn idiot beliefs and their hatred and their bigotry. And Disney stood up and did the right thing and said, hey, we don't support that. This is not okay. And so the people in charge that are pushing their bigotry and their hatred said, hey, fuck you. We're gonna really fuck you over, and now we're gonna do X, Y, and Z. This is the world that we live in, people. This is the country that we live in where this garbage happens, right? And you bring up a great point. Like, how's this gonna be taken care of? What's gonna happen here? Because now you've got all these, like, Disney, and I really should read more into this, but like Disney is taking care of their own stuff, their own power, their water, their sewage, like their road, like all of this stuff Disney took care of. Their building permits are all things that they don't need to go through the state to get done, so they can build and grow much, much quicker and without all the different red tape and garbage that you normally have to go through. All of this stuff is going to be impacted. Now, you could argue, should Disney have that free pass or not? We could argue that either way, right? I get that. But clearly the reason that this was pushed through to begin with was to give them some autonomy because of the benefits it's bringing. Like, how many people, like, pretty much anytime someone tells me they're going to Florida, my first thought is you're going to Disney, right? It's like Disney is Florida for the most part. And so, like, you're going to be stripping a lot of that. Like, honestly, it wouldn't be easy, but I would love to see Disney just pick themselves up and move to a different state. Like, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this. So I want to kind of have a conversation. I don't even know if I want to have the conversation, but I'm going to anyway. So this is kind of like the opposite side of the whole cancel culture discussion, right? Like, people get so bent out of shape when someone gets held to account about something. And like, this situation would be exactly that, right? So Disney said something that they didn't like, so now they're quote unquote holding Disney to account, right?
No,
But, like,
God damn it, B, that's not it. Because the Republicans don't believe in cancel culture. Cancel culture doesn't exist. You can't have it. It's the world. It's a horrible thing. We're against it. We can't let it happen. So they would never do that. God damn it.
right. Sure, Jan. I don't know. Like all of these topics on the wheel just make me feel sad, if we're being honest.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Ellie,
There's like one topic that doesn't make me feel as sad, but
People like you make me sad.
we'll just play a little song for Ron DeSantis. So Ellie says, in the end, Disney will fund themselves and politicians, and Florida public will pay even more. Billion-dollar companies rarely lose for long. Well, maybe. But here's the thing, and this is where that duality falls in, especially as far as I'm concerned, is like, I completely hate the fact that business has bought our government. I think it's horrible. I think it's very, 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 very bad. Now, you could argue in this case, it might be more of a positive because it's a company who we can't trust any billion-dollar company, just like we can't trust any billionaires. Like, but they're fighting a better fight, right? Like, maybe they're fighting the good. I don't know. It's, again, because of the way the whole system is, that there's always that weird duality. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. I hate it all. I'm spinning the wheel so we can get
all right.
irritated about something else. This is a great one. You know what? We're pretty much at a good spot to switch over to random rankings anyway. And I think this is a really good one to end on, because this one, god damn, this one, B. We're going to talk about Mallory Morrow.
Yep, this is the one that this is like the only one that didn't make me feel sad.
I got so many goosebumps. I even teared up when I watched this video. Like, this was insane.
I mean, I sent you, I was like, it's pretty amazing you get slayed by a white lady wearing a headband. But that's what happened in this video. So,
Shoot, she was landing haymakers.
Now, again, so let's be positive for a minute before we decide not to be positive. But so Mallory Morrow, a Michigan state senator, replied in quite a powerful way to claims by fellow Senator Lana Theus, who accused McMorrow by name in a fundraising email of grooming and sexualizing children in an attempt to marginalize McMorrow for standing up against those attempting to marginalize the LGBTQ community. McMorrow, in a speech, said, I sat on it for a while, wondering why me. Then I realized I'm the biggest threat to your hollow, hateful scheme, because you can't claim that you're targeting marginalized kids in the name of parental rights if another parent is standing up and saying no. McMorrow acknowledged her privileges as a straight, white, married Christian woman, but also made sure to point out that service in terms of religion is far more important than performative nonsense like being seen in the same pew every Sunday or writing Christian in your Twitter bio and using it as a shield to target and marginalize already marginalized people. So this was probably, I would say, like a 5-minute video, but it was a very interesting watch because this is what's happening right now in our world, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago, where anybody who disagrees with the Republican Party is a groomer or a sexualizer or a pedophile, right? And like what this woman was literally called out as that in a fundraising email by a fellow senator, and like this is crazy, but it takes people standing up and saying no and just not letting it go to do anything. Because if we don't and we just roll over, we're going to get all of this stuff that we've got in this world that's just so sad and awful and pathetic.
Yeah, I highly recommend that anybody that has even the slightest interest, and even if you don't have the slightest interest, click on that link and go watch that video after the podcast. Of course, don't leave the podcast. Because this is powerful stuff, and I just loaded up the tweet, and the way that she ends this tweet is, hate wins when people like me stand by and let it happen. I won't. And this speaks to me so much for those who are here for the last podcast and actually listened to a word that I said, which I don't blame you if you don't. This was my extra point, right? This is where my mind is 90% of the day. And every time we talk about stuff on the podcast, this is where my mind is. We see this garbage happening time after time, like constantly. We talk about it on the podcast. We've already talked about it 3, 4, 5 different times, right? Where this hatred and this bigotry continues to get pushed down our goddamn throats by people who only know how to speak in hatred and bigotry. And you know what? I'm an old white dude. Like I kind of won the lottery in that regard, I guess, because, people don't hate me for that reasons. There are some reasons people would hate me, but we're not going to get into that right now. The point is that just because it doesn't impact me doesn't mean it doesn't impact me, right? Just because if you hate black people doesn't mean you don't hate me, doesn't mean that doesn't impact me, because I love black people. Just because you hate gay people or trans people or women doesn't mean that doesn't impact me, because I'm not a gay person or a trans person or a woman. Because I love gay people and trans people and women. Okay? Like, that's just how it works. And God damn it, if we sit by and we don't voice this and we sit quietly and we let these fucking assholes like Ron DeSantis and all of his cronies and Donald Trump and all these assholes just spout their bullshit, then all anybody is going to hear is their bullshit. All that's going to happen is more of that bullshit, and it's just, that's not okay. And so the fact that someone stood up and said this in the state Senate was freaking amazing. And we need more people like that. We need more people to stand up and speak their truth and fight against this goddamn hatred. I'm going to keep saying this over and over and over again. We're going to lose, half of our 3 followers who actually listen to this podcast, because I'm going to keep repeating that shit over and over again, because that's my mission right now. That's where I'm at, is I'm going to keep screaming from the pulpit and screaming from the rooftops and screaming from the fucking mountaintops and screaming in people's faces if I have to, because I cannot stand to live in a world where I don't fight back against this garbage. I kind of went on a rant there. Sorry about that.
All right, podcast is over. You can find us at AQ_PROD. You can find Skonzii on Twitter at Skonzii. All right, well, I guess it's now time for random rankings. So, to figuratively wash the taste out of our mouths.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
45 minutes of negativity. We are going to go back to our roots today. We're doing a food and drink draft.
Food, baby.
This food and drink draft is a idea that I stole. I'm not even going to lie. But it was very fun and I enjoyed it. So what we're going to do is we are going to draft food and drink or food and food pairings. So what are your favorite food pairings, Skonzii? Is it macaroni and cheese?
Ooh, that's good.
Is it pizza and beer?
Oh, that's not bad.
Is it broccoli and ranch?
Ooh, old man Wiggum likes that one.
So we're gonna draft a couple. We're just gonna pick some stuff and have some fun and talk about food and try to forget about all the negativity that we just talked about. So Skonzii,
Yeah.
do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I think you should go. But before you start, chat, make sure you're thinking of your own thoughts too. Share those with us because we want to hear them. B, what do you got? What's at the top of your? I got a list of like 20 different things. I didn't put them in order though. Well, I put one on top that I'm like, this is number one. The rest are just mishmash. But what do you got?
I have no list, so everything is coming from out here.
Oh,
but the first one that I got is cake and ice cream.
Okay, you know what? That was not on my list, but that's a winner, 100%. Cake and ice cream. I do like that. I know this is going to shock you when I give you my number one. It's not whiskey and whiskey like I told you in our chat, although that would be a good one. Whiskey for each
Is it
hand.
whiskey? Is it whiskey and cigars because cigars are technically a salad?
No, but if we're going that route, that would be a good one. No, number one on my list is burger and fries, of course.
Yep, that's a winner. So that one definitely makes sense. Now, I am going to go with. This is a good one. See, I have to think about this because, like, my brain just wants desserts. But there's so many other things, and this one just came to mind. I'm going to go with coffee and milk. Now, that sounds strange.
Okay.
But when you have a milk frother, your life will change.
Yeah, I don't have any coffee on anything because I'm not a big coffee person. We got some good ones in chat, so I'm going to take a quick break before I do mine. Emily said Oreos and milk, which is great. That was not on my list. Your life will change when you put Oreos in a bowl and then fill the bowl up with with milk.
With water.
And then you eat it with a spoon. Trust me, your life will change. Old man Wiggum had steak and potatoes. That's delicious. I did have basically potatoes and any red meat, I think is what I put out. Yeah, red meat and potatoes. I figured meatloaf and potatoes, steak and potatoes, meatballs and potatoes or whatever. Crackers and cheese, yes. I also had cheese and sausage, which is very similar. Turkey and stuffing from Emily. That is definitely a winner. And then Wiggum also had Diet Pepsi and anything. It's funny because the last thing on my list, Coke and anything. All right. So even though burgers and fries, I said was my number one, the first one that I actually wrote down, chocolate and caramel.
Okay. Yeah.
Because like sense. Chocolate and caramel is just like where it's at. Anytime I want some kind of candy type thing, I want it to be chocolate and I want there to be caramel.
That seems legit. So another one that I'm losing it. It's going away. I just had thought about it. Then I started thinking about chocolate and caramel. So I will go with wings and beer.
I had wings and blue cheese.
Okay. I did think of the one that I was missing, but you're going to be angry with me.
All right, what is it?
Eggs and hash browns.
You son of a bitch. That was going to be the next one I said. Eggs and hash browns, 100%. Another, this will be an interesting one. Onions, mushrooms, and green peppers.
Oh, 100%. That's three things, but they
And
all go
well,
together.
It is,
and they're
right?
delicious.
Yeah, because it's like, and it doesn't matter what we put them on, right? Like, if I'm making an omelet, I want onions, mushrooms, and peppers. If I order a pizza, I want onions, mushrooms, and peppers. If I get a burger, you know what I want on the burger? Onions, mushrooms, and peppers. It's just like, whatever, just throw it onto there.
Mm-hmm.
Emily, have you been drinking popcorn with Milk Duds mixed in? Like, I've heard that before. I just don't know.
Texture would be strange.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
So I got another one. So hummus and pita bread.
Okay, that was not on my list, but that is a very, very good one. Bourbon and chocolate, soft pretzel with beer cheese. Yep.
Yep.
How about this one? This isn't even special. This is just like if you believe in God, I believe that God said these two things belong together, so everybody will inherently understand that these go together. Ham and cheese, right? Like ham and cheese.
Okay.
Like it just belongs together.
Yep. I was gonna go with grilled cheese and tomato soup.
That's fair. I am going to officially alienate probably 90% of our audience.
Uh-oh.
Because we already talked about onions, mushrooms, and green peppers and putting those on a pizza. You know what else is delicious on a pizza, B?
Pineapple.
Pineapple and ham.
Yep.
Yeah, pineapple and ham on a pizza. Oof. Or you just make a ham and you put pineapple on it, that too. But yeah, pineapple and ham, that's legit.
Mm-hmm. Biscuits and gravy.
Biscuits and gravy? I saw that on a list that I looked up. But yeah.
Chicken and waffles.
What is the cracked corn? Candy mixed with... I'm so confused. What is cracked corn? I don't know what cracked corn is. What is cracked corn, B? All right, you guys let us know what cracked corn is. I'm going to look at my list. I had pasta and meatballs.
Yep.
And pasta and cheese. And pasta and tomatoes. Pasta and
soda
everything.
And popcorn.
Soda and popcorn. Yeah. Oh, cheddar popcorn and caramel corn. That's crack. Well, it's kind of crack. Yeah, that's fair. No, the Milk Duds stuff, it kind of makes sense to me. I don't know. It's weird too. What else do I have on my list? Chicken and waffles, baby. If you haven't had chicken and waffles, you haven't lived. That's all I'm saying.
Delicious.
It is really good. What else you got, B, or you're tapped out?
I could think of lots of them, but then I'm just going to be hungry, and that's not going to end well for me.
That's fair. That's fair. The last one I have on the list that I actually put together is vanilla ice cream with caramel.
Okay.
I mean, technically, it should also have hot fudge and pecans, but you know, why do we have to be picky and make it a turtle sundae? I should have just said turtle sundae. That would have just been the easier thing. But yeah.
So like a donut with icing counts, even though, because sometimes donuts don't have icing.
That's fair. Delicious. That's fair. Yeah, the Chicago mix, we should have said cheese popcorn with caramel popcorn.
Caramel popcorn, yep.
Yeah.
So if you're not hungry at the end of this random rankings, we're doing it wrong, but
Absolutely.
I'm guessing that...
I'm freaking hungry now. Jesus.
Right? All right. Well, that is your random rankings for this week. We talked about food. I'm not even feeling negative and angry anymore. Are you?
I know. No, that was a good palate cleanser. We should do that more often.
We should.
And thank you, everybody, for joining in the chat. Appreciate that. Make sure you let us know which one of these stimulated you to the point where you ran off and you made some popcorn with Milk Duds or whatever you decided to do. But first, it's B and his extra point.
It is me and the extra point. So, as you noticed, today we had a lot of negative, heavy topics. I think some of that is just based on the way that our world is going right now. And sometimes it really feels almost hopeless or impossible to talk to people who are on opposite sides of you. And, that's a weight that I carry. I think that's a weight that our entire podcast carries. And there's a different podcast that I listen to where one of the hosts was talking about a strategy that he tries to use sometimes to talk to people who have views that are opposite his. He kind of called it the yes and mentality. If you go into these conversations and you're combating people like point by point by point, like you oftentimes just end up shutting them down and nothing productive happens. If you go yes and da 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 da, then that may open up the opportunity for a response or for learning or for somebody to maybe have a breakthrough. So for example, when somebody goes, it's terrible if there's a man who goes into the woman's bathroom, instead of being like, you're a fucking idiot, which is probably what Skonzii might say, you could say yes and then come back with a point for them to consider about how insensitive that might be to people who really just want to use the bathroom or something, right? I haven't thought through this point, and this is not a strategy that I've used yet, but it's something that I at least wanted to put out there because I really feel passionate that we need to start doing something, because the way that I see things going just makes me feel very sad.
I think that's a very good point, B. And let me also comment that I absolutely would tell that person that they're a fucking idiot. Maybe multiple times. And I might like even yell in their face or something. I don't know. I appreciate your point. I thank you for sharing that. I think that you I think it's a good approach. I know it's something that a lot of the leadership in the company that I work for has focused on is the yes and. I think where my struggle is on that is if you have a completely brain dead opinion, I struggle with giving you a yes in any way, shape, or form, right? Like your example, and I know you said you hadn't thought through your whole concept, but like in your example, I'm not going to say yes if they're like arguing that a trans woman is going into a woman's bathroom, right? I'm not going to give you any kind of acknowledgement that that's an okay opinion. I'm not going to do that. I can't do that because it's not. There's no okayness to that, right? I don't know where I was going because I didn't have an extra point. And in fact, I was kind of going to go on this same topic because I'm still amped up about us arguing and fighting and standing up and making sure that our voice is heard so that, we don't let hatred and bigotry and stupidity, I guess. Now I'm being hateful, run rampant in this country because I think that it's an issue, but that's not what I wanted to talk about again. Instead, I do want to talk about empathy, which is funny after what I just said. But empathy in understanding and listening to other people and trying to have an open mind in situations that maybe you don't completely understand. So I was scrolling through Twitter today, and I saw a post from a female streamer, a woman streamer that I've kind of follow more on Twitter than her streaming career. And she mentioned, this is why all my DMs are closed. And she had retweeted a post from another woman who is a streamer, and she shared some messages from somebody who was private messaging her, DMing her. And it started off with, hey, I've been watching you for a while and I lurk around, yada, 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 right? It came across like a positive message. It really wasn't. Because let's be honest, if you're sending a DM to somebody you don't know and somewhere in there you're like, hey, by the way, you're beautiful, red flag. But it started off kind of in a positive way, and she responded to him a couple times. And then he kind of got a little pushy. Hey, are you going to go to this conference? Because I'll be able to see you. And she's like, I don't know if I'm going to be there. He goes, oh, but I thought I heard you. This is like another day or two or whatever later. Hey, I saw on your stream you said you're going to go here, so I'm definitely going to see you. And she doesn't respond. And then, of course, now he gets angry. Why are you acting this way? How come you were talking to me? Now you're not talking to me. And then it got to the point where he said, I know what you look like. I'll be able to find you at this conference. Be careful so you don't get something horrible, like a sexual assaulted and like physically assaulted. First of all, it's fucking ridiculous on every level possible. But then you see the comments kind of pop up, and inevitably, in every one of these situations that I've ever read online, somebody will call out, not every guy is like that. No. That's not the answer, right? Because a lot of guys are. Is every guy going to respond to somebody and treat somebody and go after somebody that way? Of course not. And nobody is saying that. Stop getting defensive. It has nothing to do with you and how you would handle a situation or not handle a situation. It has to do with somebody who's going through one fuck of a situation. Like, this is asinine on another fucking level. Like, this is maybe even worse than Ron DeSantis, right? Like, this is fucking horrible. We just have to, we need to take a step back. We need to put ourselves in other people's shoes. We need to just be empathetic with people who are just trying to live their fucking lives, right? This is just somebody who's just trying to exist. She's trying to stream and chase this dream that she has, and she has to put up with this. And I guarantee this isn't the only time something like this has happened, right? Any woman who lives online has probably had this type of thing come up, probably multiple times. And it's one of those situations where, was this person trying to be positive and helpful and supportive? Maybe they were. But we kind of got to watch how we say things and how we react to things, and just have a little bit of empathy for people, and just step outside yourself and just say, I'm really sorry that this happened to you. You should not have to put up with this. This is garbage. These people are garbage. People who do this are garbage. You should not have to deal with this. I'm sorry. That's it. And maybe there's even a better approach than that. I don't know. That's kind of the approach I went with, because to me, I think that that's where it's at, right? Acknowledge that she's going through a hellish situation, and just show some empathy, show some love, right? I don't think it's that hard. That was way all over the place because I didn't know what I was going to talk about. But yeah, let's just be a little bit more empathetic and a little bit more loving. And that's what I got, B.
Did you not know that empathy is banned? Also, it's that man's First Amendment rights to say whatever he's going to say on Elon Musk's Twitter, apparently.
Oh, but... Jesus Christ. Don't even get me started. We'll talk about Elon on the extra time this weekend.
All right. Well, you know, I really appreciate your extra point. I'm right there with you. I'm just being very snarky because I am so very sad with how our world is going. So if you want to cheer me up, you can find me on Twitter at LandmarkMKE. You can find Skonzii on Twitter at Skonzii. You can find the podcast AQ_PROD. You can find us in your favorite podcast app, We Random. You can find Skonzii here on the YouTube. You can find us here most Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock. When we're not here, usually one of us has something going on, or, you know, we're just taking a mental health break because we deserve it.
Yes, sir.
Until the next time we see you, which will probably be next week, have a great week. Thank you for coming back. We appreciate you. Stay positive and go watch Lenny. We all need some Lenny after this podcast because we love you so much. And goodbye.
Bye, everybody.